Welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, where we honor you wherever you are on your physical and spiritual path. Please take this opportunity to mute your cell phones. We're going to try something different. Just really mute them. If we've done our research, it shouldn't affect the sound system. So just mute them, turn them off, so they won't interrupt the sacred space that we will be creating here today. Once you've done that, say hello to your neighbor, especially if it's someone you don't know. As I said, we here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living honor you wherever you are on your spiritual path. And we know that while there are infinite paths too, there is indeed only one God. The words of the morning chant will be up here on the screen, followed by a spiritual mind treatment by our own Reverend Katherine.
Oh, yeah, no.
Can you turn me up a little bit, Dana? This will not pass. I'm sorry. Are you all back in your familiar seats this morning? So if you are sitting where you always sit, if you weren't here last Sunday and you didn't get this memo, what we teach in Science of Mind is that point of view and perspective are very important to how you experience the world. And it's hard to change your thinking and change your life if you never change your perspective. So if you're always sitting in the same place, you have a single, consistent perspective in this room. And who knows what the message might be this morning if you sit someplace else. So I want you to stand up and shuffle yourselves. If you always sit at the back, come forward. If you always sit at the front, go backward. Move all around and remain standing. Remain standing. So when you get there, stand. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Yep. And I'll tell you why. So please stand wherever you are. We're going to do this as one family. And when we begin in the morning, it's very important that we establish... Hello. Hi. When we begin in the morning, it's very important that we take our space and establish ourselves as participants and not observers. We're not spectators, we're participants together. And that means we want to sing together consciously with energy. It's when you sit down, it's really easy to do this. Or just to sit there like this and let the person next to you sing. What I want you to do is bring your heart forward and sing out into this room so these people get your voice and you get theirs. That way we share each other's vibration. Does this make sense? Okay, so now we're going to sing Thank You. Okay.
Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my health, Spirit. Thank you for my health. My radiant hell, yeah, my radiant hell. Hey, thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful friends. Hey, beautiful day. This beautiful day.
Wonderful. Okay, now you may be seated. That was fabulous.
May we learn to live in love. May we learn to forgive every day. May we come from the place where there's no need to blame. May we recognize that deep inside we're all the same. May we learn to live in love. May we learn to forgive every day. May we come from the place where there's no need to blame. May we recognize that deep inside we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same.
And so we move into that place where all is universal and oneness. That place where there is no need for forgiveness because the love is unconditional. The vastness of the I am, the incredible isness of what we call God. It is beyond our understanding, and yet our hearts are keenly and intimately attuned to it because we are based in it, sourced from it, and abide by it. I recognize that this is my source and my essence, and it is this for all people, all beings, all consciousness. And it is from this recognition and this unification that I speak the word of power and say, let there be, and lo it is. And so this morning, I accept, affirm, embrace, and know for each of us that as we recognize the unity and the beauty of life, that this service becomes a manifestation and an incredibly beautiful expression of that recognition and joy and love. I claim for each one of us here a wondrous opening and a deep receptivity to wisdom and guidance, to inspiration and revelation, to a movement of heart and soul, so that each day, each person here brings it forth into the world and scatters it like seeds upon fertile ground, so that what we take today, we give tomorrow. And so it just keeps moving and just keeps expressing. I know that these incredible shifts that we have arise as we listen to Reverend Mary, and her words spark some recognition within us, or an opening window or an opening door through which we step. So I declare this day good, this service blessed and holy beyond our imaginations. And I know that together we are creating that and being it simultaneously. And God says yes. How beautiful, and take some more, because it is limitless, that goodness. I give thanks. I am so grateful to feel it, to know it, to express it for each of us now. So grateful that I can let it go because it's done. It is already here, and as I look upon the beautiful faces, I see it, and so it is.
May we learn to live in love. May we learn to forgive every day. May we come from the place where there's no need to blame. May we recognize that deep inside we're all the same. One more time. May we learn to live in love. May we learn to forgive every day. May we come from the place where there's no need to blame. May we recognize that deep inside we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all the same. Indeed. We're all the same, yet so different and so unique, are we not? Amazing conundrum, that sameness and differentness. So this morning we have our friend Lakshmi with us, and she is here to sing for us and bring her magic, and also to help inspire the Women's Spirit Rising program that's going to be happening in September. So please welcome Lakshmi and her music to this place. Yes.
Thank you. The name of this song is called Freedom.
It requires us to know what we want from this life. And if we falter in our dreams, if we doubt the path that seems the best to be expressed as this life, we might lose our chance to live life the enlightened way. But how would we know how to choose experiences divine intelligence would play? How would we know to choose to ride the mystic dragon through the thunder, to sit upon the shore, watch the hurricane storm tear us asunder? How would we know to choose? To heal, I choose to be whole, I choose to be holy, I choose to believe that the quiet whisper in my heart is real. So what you gonna do with your freedom? Choose to lose control in the presence of staggering beauty. And I choose to be stripped of what is unreal, to become what is real. I am nothing I can believe. Because I What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do with your freedom? What you gonna do with your freedom? With your freedom. With your freedom. With your freedom. What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Thank you so much. Good morning. So it looks different from where you're sitting now, doesn't it? Yeah. It does, believe me, really. I might be wearing a completely different outfit than what you saw a few minutes ago. You wouldn't, how do you know? I'm just being silly. Good morning and welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Mary Shelton. I'm delighted to welcome you here. Whoever you are, whoever you may be on your pathway of life, we're so happy to have you here. As Rick said earlier, our welcome man for the morning. If you're here with us for the very first time this morning, Reverend Katherine is here from the membership team with a gift for you. This is a packet of information about us, and it has inside it a little blue card. And if you fill out that little blue card and drop it off back here at the membership table, they're going to give you a gift, which is a free book, this little book called What Religious Science Teaches, which gives you in a small package some of the basics of the things that we believe. So if you're not familiar with our philosophy, you'll get an idea of it. So if you're here for the first time today, yeah, I know this is a pain to raise your hand, but we won't, we're not going to follow you home or put tracking on you or anything like that. We just want to give you a gift. So would you raise your hand up real high and we'll come and give you those. And thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We're really delighted. And Katherine, there's also one person back over here on this side as well. Oh, two people back over here, sorry. On this side as well. So we want to make sure we get everyone. Thank you so much. If you fill in that blue card, we'll get you to our email list so that you'll get updated on what's going on around here. We don't send a whole bunch of stuff out, so you don't have to worry about being inundated, but it just will let you know who we are and what we're doing. And if you don't check that off on the blue card, then we won't do that either. But we would love for you to do that so we can see you often. So thank you for being here with us this morning. All right, so here we are, 100 years of Science of Mind. Science of Mind is our philosophy. 100 years ago, our founder, Ernest Holmes, published his first book. He didn't know he was creating a spiritual community or organization at the time. In fact, that was not his intention originally. He believed that in learning what he had discovered and teaching it, that he would allow people to be more effective and happy in their lives, whatever their spiritual path was. And then eventually, it became clear to the people he was teaching and lecturing to that it was a spiritual path itself. And so it became what is now called Centers for Spiritual Living. And each month of this year, our centers have been sharing themes. And so this month, we're talking about our form of prayer, which we call spiritual mind treatment. And this I have joined the technique and the fire together for this month. So the technique, well, I'll come back to the review in just a second. What I'm talking about this morning is it's the thought that counts. Now, Hallmark has been saying this for a long time, but I think that we've been saying this in Science of Mind a lot longer. But thought is an interesting term because when we say thought, we're actually referring to something much more complex than just thought. So you'll notice that in this instance where we say our thought is creative, that she has a lotus at the center of her heart, and the creativity she's expressing seems to be really emerging from the center, not from her head. So when we're talking about thought being creative, we're talking about a particular kind of thought and putting that particular kind of thought into our prayer. So let me just review, in case you weren't here last week, I'll do a little mini review. The technique I talked about was that, as in anything we want to learn, it takes us the time to learn the form, the guidelines, and then to practice. So the form and the guidelines of anything we want to learn how to do. Now, I'm going to give you a very silly example. How many of you, when you were young, practiced smoking so that you would look cool when you did it and not cough your brains out? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but I know some of you did do that, right? It took practice. You had to really learn how to do it to look cool. Well, we have to learn the form and the guidelines to learn how to drive, to play a sport, to learn a language, to learn mathematics, anything that we do. We have to learn the form and the guidelines, and then we have to practice, usually, to get good at it. That's the form, that's the technique. But what really comes underneath prayer that's even more important than the technique is the fire. And the fire is the passion that drives it. It is the vision that we hold of what we want to move toward. It is what we want to grow into and become. So the fire includes the movement of feeling in the prayer. It includes our surrender into letting that take place. Its flow through us and into our lives, and actually our embodiment of it. So when we pray, we're not asking outside of ourselves. We're coming to a place within where we enter into a kind of welcoming knowing. And we speak from that place. So last week I talked about the simple 5-step prayer that starts with the recognition of the infinite. And we don't talk about the problem, really, in the prayer. What we do instead is we see that infinite presence. We recognize, oh, hello. Back up. Where was I? Here we go. We're not at him yet. So the 5-step prayer is, God is, we turn our attention first to the infinite, and then I am, recognizing that we're the expression of that everything we just said about the infinite is also true where we are. And then from that place, we speak the spiritual truth about the situation that we're dealing with. So we're not describing a problem, we're coming from a place where we're in the experience of the divine wisdom, beauty, wholeness, not only all around us, but within us. And from that place, we speak the spiritual truth, which is the deeper truth behind the appearance that we're experiencing temporarily. Then, having done that, we can enter into that place of feeling grateful and letting it go. Okay? So when we say that thought is creative, the first thing that happens sometimes, particularly at the beginning of our studies in metaphysics, or when we're having a particularly hard time dealing with our own consciousness, is we begin to get nervous about what we're thinking. That's where this guy comes in. We begin to get a little frightened about our own thoughts and our own beliefs, like, oh God, I shouldn't have thought that. You know, that was not affirmative. That's going to cause me all kinds of problems. Or sometimes somebody will say to us, that's some affirmation, and you think, ooh, they caught me. They caught me. What is important in the thought is the way that the thought actually works. So good intentions are one thing, but they're not necessarily sufficient. I heard a story about a couple right before Valentine's Day. She had a dream that her husband had given her a beautiful necklace. And so the next morning, she said to Edward, I just dreamt you gave me a beautiful pearl necklace for Valentine's Day. What do you think that means? And Edward said with a confident smile, well, you'll find out on Valentine's Day. So when Valentine's Day arrived, Edward handed his delighted wife a beautifully wrapped package, and she excitedly opened it, and inside the box was a small book entitled The Meaning of Dreams. The funeral announcements for Edward were arranged for that weekend. intention is not necessarily good enough. We have to go further than that. We have to go further than that. So not every random thought is powerful in this creative way. Some random thoughts contradict other thoughts that we have. Some are fleeting. We don't really pay much attention to them. So what we're really talking about when we say thought is creative is deep, repeated beliefs that are anchored with feeling, emotion. Those deep anchored beliefs then have a tendency to reproduce themselves in our experiences and to multiply out there so that everywhere we look, we see that particular thing. You know the saying that if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail? It's sort of like that. One of my mentors once said that he discovered at a certain point in time that one of the things that was common to the problem he had with every boss he'd ever had, the one thing that was consistent in all of those experiences was him. That was it. And he had to recognize that there was something going on there inside of him that was recreating that relationship everywhere he went, or attracting that same relationship everywhere he went. You with me here? So when we're talking about our deeply held beliefs. These are not necessarily facts, but we have made them facts inside ourselves, and so they operate like facts in our world. So we might have said there was a time when people believed the world was flat. It didn't actually make the world flat, but it did make it flat in their experience. They were afraid to go past a certain point in the oceans because they didn't want to fall off the edge, or here be dragons. That was another thing that was said on those maps beyond the edges of what was known. And so if it doesn't really matter if it's a fact or not, if it affects us as if it is a fact in a limiting way, in a way that clamps us down and holds us in place in negativity. Does this make sense? Yeah? So Ernest Holmes, our founder, in Living the Science of Mind, says treatment, which is prayer, treatment deals with thoughts rather than people. We must be careful, he's speaking to practitioners now, for example, we must be careful never to associate a negative condition with the person who suffers from it. It does not belong to your patient, nor to anyone else. I'm reading a book right now in preparation for the class I'm going to be teaching that's called The Untethered Soul. And one of the first things that the author talks about is noticing that your mind runs all the time. It's constantly commenting. It takes both sides of the conversation. It's always going. It's going even when we're sleeping. It's talking all the time. It never stops. Now, I want you to, in your mind, imagine that you could hear really loud, stop. Could you do that? Okay, now, something said stop, but something else was watching the stopping being said. So the author is really pointing out, thoughts just happen. The problem is that we take ownership of them. Thoughts just float around, and they float through us. Our problem is we believe that they're us. So Ernest Holmes is saying the thought is not yours. Now Byron Katie says we should question every thought that hurts. You don't have to question the rest of them because they're working for you. It doesn't really matter. But question the thoughts that hurt. That's a good place to start. If we begin to recognize that thoughts are just energy flowing through the brain in a particular way, and noticing them without pushing them away or grabbing onto them, then we begin to make some elbow room between us and those thoughts that we think we generated or that belong to us. Does that make sense? So we put our attention on something and thoughts show up about that. I could look at Suzanne's sandals and go into, a whole thing about automatically. While I'm talking to you, now I'm thinking about her sandals, right? The thoughts are happening. But those thoughts, those random thoughts, are not necessarily creative. So the question comes about then, why do some thoughts have more power than others? Why do they have more creative juice than others? Here's 4 reasons why. First, thought plus emotion goes deeper into your subconscious where the beliefs are stored. So when you have a thought or an experience that's connected to a feeling, an emotion, it goes deeper in. It may be something you remember or think about after that. It makes an impression on you. You carry it with you. That has more creative juice than my thinking about Suzanne sandals, which I probably won't think about after I leave today. Secondly, imagery lasts. Imagery endures. It takes something deeper. I've also been reading a book about framing and how when we are in conversations about big ideas, the way that we label things, the things that we call them, bring forth other associations and other emotional connections and attachments. So if we're debating about things in morality or politics that we have opinions about, that we have feelings about, and we use certain words or phrases or imagery that's common in the culture, we call those up and we reinforce them, whether we were trying to refute them or support them. By bringing those frames up, we reinforce them. So our imagery that goes with a thought is very important because it brings up other associations and connections. Is this making sense? Are you with me here? The third thing is that repetition actually redesigns the brain, physically redesigns the brain. So a repeated physical action or a repeated word or thought or image, if it is repeated enough, changes the neuron patterning in the brain. Not that it moves them around, but what it does is they begin to fire off more quickly because they know what's coming in anticipation. So this is how we develop habits. You know, eventually you don't have to think about riding a bike, you know how to do it. Eventually you don't have to think about how to do, you know, the swing dance because you've learned how to do it. It's in your body-mind memory. You just do it automatically. I watch musicians and I think, how do they manage to keep the rhythm, play the instrument, and sing the song at the same time? How do guitarists manage to change chords and remember the lyrics and the melody and stay on pitch? It seems like a lot to me, but I don't play an instrument. So that has been hardwired into their brains. The neuron structures fire off in such a way, those neuron pathways, that that pathway goes faster and faster every single time. And that works with thoughts, and it works with physical activity, and it works even more so with feeling. So if you've got a thought that's attached to an image and a feeling, and it's repeated, boy, that becomes habitual really quickly. And so we can believe things that we were not the ones that were repeating, that was repeating. We were not the ones that were repeating it over and over again. Maybe it was family members, maybe it was friends, co-workers, bosses, teachers, clergy. You heard something over and over and over again, and it became assimilated into your brain. How many of you know the end of this little jingle? You'll wonder why the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent. Is Pepsodent even out there anymore? But how many times did you hear that when you were a kid growing up? Well, it's in there. It's actually wired into your brain. Now, when we stop repeating something, it's true that some of those neuron pathways begin to become overgrown like a path in the woods. They become less distinct, and it's easier to form a different habit or a different pathway with new repetition. So some of you didn't remember Pepsodent, even though you'd heard that little jingle when you were a kid, but other ones did. Your pathways, you're blessed. Yours have grown over around Pepsodent, and you've got space for other stuff now, and that's great. So we have then a method that we can use when a thought or a belief is causing us difficulty or problems, when it's making us unhappy or uncomfortable. We can notice that and realize that that is something that's come in with imagery, with emotion, with repetition, and that's why it's in there. But maybe it's time to address that in a different way so that you can take the power away from that. The other thing that Ernest Holmes said that's important to know is that trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. Years ago, when I was a new Science of Mind student, I heard Reverend Gene Graves, who had come by an interesting path into the ministry. He had been an atheist, a radio announcer, and an alcoholic. He had come into the Science of Mind, gotten sober, and began to explore the possibility of an infinite presence. But he said he found that things that he used to do, now he couldn't do anymore without having an immediate consequence to it. And he said, why is it that I could do that before and it never bothered me, and now it's a problem if I do it? He said, eventually I figured out that now that I was on the spiritual path, I had chosen a particular direction, and the universe was just lovingly moving the guardrails in a little closer to keep me on that path that I'd chosen, and I was just bouncing off the guardrails. I thought that was a great image for spiritual growth. When you go into a trained thought, then the repetition of thought, when you have been trained to use your thought in a particular way, manifests more quickly than it might have when you had the whole field to wander around in and you weren't particularly trained about the power of your consciousness. So that's why we teach classes and why people take them, is to learn how to go more deeply into how to think rather than what to think. What allows us to do that? So I want to show you something. Imagine a goose in a bottle. Now, if you know this already, please don't say it, all right? Imagine a goose in a bottle. It has a narrow neck at the top. The goose is a full-grown goose inside the bottle. How do you get the goose out of the bottle without harming the goose or breaking the bottle? How do you do that? Well, I tell you what. You imagine her out. That's how you got her in there in the first place. I said, imagine a goose in a bottle. I didn't say there was one. That's how you got her in there in the first place. So, when we're talking about beliefs that are lodged in our subconscious, the question rightly arises, how can I change my thought or belief if it's subconscious? It's under my consciousness. I don't even know it's there. How am I supposed to change it, right? How do I change it if it's subconscious? Well, you do it by using the same technique that got it in there in the first place, all right? So, first of all, there are detective kind of things that you do. First, you look at the results you're experiencing in your life right now. What's currently happening in this area that's bugging me? What do I not like? What do I wish were different? What is going on? And then you think, so what kind of belief might that reflect? Just brainstorming. What kind of belief might that reflect? So if I have trouble in relationships, and I've always had trouble in relationships, and I'm in another relationship where I'm having trouble, I might say, well, okay, so do I believe that relationships have to be difficult, or that good relationships require an awful lot of work, that they're a struggle? Do I feel like I'm unlovable, or do I feel like nobody is ever good enough for me? Is that possible? Do I believe that? Do I believe, so you can look at those questions. Something that you're looking at will feel uncomfortable, and you'll really want to push it away and not own it. Oh no, it's not that. Look at that one. Look at that one. What is that? What is that? Is it possible that that is underneath in my subconscious? If so, what's the opposite of that thought? What's the opposite of that belief? So if I don't think I'm lovable, maybe? I'm lovable. I don't believe that yet, but that's an opposite belief. Or nobody is really good enough for me. Well, that's a discouraging thought. So the opposite of that becomes, there are dozens of people out there who would be perfect for me. Do I think relationships have to be a lot of hard work? I know that there are relationships out there where people are having joy-filled connections and they're easy. So if those statements feel like, oh yeah, right, that's one to take a look at. And how do we then begin to unravel that old belief? Because clearly, when you say the opposite of it, and inside your brain goes, yeah, right, you know that you don't yet believe that opposite thought, right? But if you think about it from God's point of view, the infinite would be living in that thought, that opposite thought that is more loving, bigger, more expansive, gives you more elbow room, is more encouraging or hopeful. That would be God's perspective. Who do you think is more likely to be right? You or God? So if that's God's perspective on things, then maybe what we want to do is think about, what would I be like if I were living in that opposite belief? What would the image of me and my life be if I were living that belief? What would God's consciousness, what would the God presence be about in that instance? What would the God quality be that I might use to describe that? So maybe my image of myself in a happy relationship is laughing. And I think, well, what's the quality of God that's like that? It's joy. It's peace. It's happiness. It's creativity, whatever it might be for you. It's surprise, it's playfulness. I guess surprise probably isn't one of God's. I don't know how you'd surprise God exactly, but. So what I'm encouraging you, though, to do is to get a sense of what it feels like. Who are you in this other image, in this other God quality? Take the image and the God quality and get yourself into those. Like, let it settle into you. Marinate in it a little bit. What does that feel like? Now you're in prayer. You're actually in the second step. You've done the God is, and now you're getting that image of yourself, I am. And each time you sit down for prayer, bring that into your mind. Bring that image of yourself, that feeling, and the God quality into your prayer, and repeat it. Then you have image, emotion, and repetition. So you're entering into a process to begin to reformulate that experience that you were having before. So to encapsulate this, yes, thought is creative. Yes, it is the thought that counts, because it is the thought that leads us into our emotion and our imagery. It is the words that are the hook that take us to that place, whether they're our words or somebody else's. So find for yourself, when you're doing this, the juiciest words you can. Now, next week I'm going to talk about words that make and unmake the world. And so we'll talk more about that next week. But this week, what I want you to do is get the idea of the image and the feeling, the God quality, and just repeat those for yourself in the area where you want something to shift. And just watch it and see what happens. And you might take advantage of our practitioners this morning that are over here at the table, all these beautiful ladies in their white stoles. They're here to offer prayer this morning following the service. So you can tell them, I'm having trouble getting an image, or this is the image that I want, or I got the quality, or I can't get the quality, but I have the image. Give them whatever you've got. If you don't have either one, tell them that. And they will create the prayer with you present that will help move you forward in that. Good? Good. All right. That's your homework. Namaste. And we're going to take a moment now to go into that heart, that passion, that technique together. I want to invite the practitioners to come and stand around the room for us. Now you'll see there are more here than just the ones at the table. All these people are licensed practitioners here. These are people whose trained thought is ready to support you in making these shifts. So as they surround you and I say these words, your job is simply to be welcoming and receptive. So if you remember, we did this last week as a physical thing. So if you'd like to do that with me, you can. There is one infinite presence, full, rich, deep, gorgeous, whole. It is expressing right now through everything and everyone, everywhere, the love, the abundance, the wholeness, the creativity and joy, the overflow of goodness and gratitude are right here. All of those qualities of God are right here where I am. The love, the peace, the joy, the creativity and harmony, the abundance. These are my essence. And so I speak this word for all of us here and for myself, knowing that this love, this grace, this peace and abundance is manifesting in my experience, in my awareness, and I welcome it. I allow myself to be changed at depth, and I welcome the change. I step into it with confidence and peace. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to know this is the truth right now. That I can let it go into the law, into the divine presence, and simply let it be. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.
Pastel morning, the earth is spinning. My heart is breaking open. My heart is breaking open. Flashes of yellow light begin to heal my sight. I share my heart with a sister and find the clouds begin to disappear. The sky becomes more clear. The blue morning tide washes ashore my lessons for the day. The blue morning tide sweeps away my burdens for the day. Red-tailed hawk, flying feathers, come to me in my dreams. Let me to listen to the messages. My heart breaking open. My heart breaking open. washes ashore my lessons for the day. The blue morning tide sweeps away my burdens for the day. Rainbow children carry the colors of our lessons. The sea washed a child ashore today. It's up to me to hear the message that she brings from the colors of the day, the colors of the day, the colors of the day. The blue morning tide washes ashore my lessons for the day. The blue morning tide sweeps away my burdens for the day. The colors of the day. The colors of the day.
Thank you. Would the ushers please come forward? This is our offering time, and if you're here for the first time, you are a gift to us. And we invite you to come back soon. And for the rest of us, please take your offering and hold it over your heart. Or if you're with a loved one, you can hold your hands together and please join me in this offering blessing. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to please and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart, one thought at a time. And so it is.
God is my soul. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for my blessing. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. Everything. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. Everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything. Now you by yourself. God is my... Let me hear you.
God is my power. God gives me everything I need.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I give thanks
Yeah, oh yeah.
for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need.
God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. So, I hear you now.
So on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, we do, all of us together, accept and bless this offering in its totality, and we send it out into the world to do its work of mind and heart and spirit from our hearts everywhere it goes. And so it is.
So it is.
Okay. We've got wonderful things coming up. Oh, yes. All right, first I want to say a gratitude, and then we have a very special announcement. So hang on just a second. So I want to say thank you, especially this morning to Gailya, for this beautiful altar. Now this represents the unlimited possibilities that are available in terms of us choosing our thoughts and manifesting according to the thoughts that we choose, the deeply held beliefs that we want to express more fully. So that's Spirit's expression of deeply held beauty. And we love it. Thank you, Gailya. That's wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you, Katherine and Rick and Jett and Dana and Ron and Tom and Ceci and all of you over at the practitioner table. Thank you, anybody who did food, anybody who did anything for the kids that we don't have this morning, and all of you for coming and being here. And thank you, Bodhi and Lakshmi and Amanda. And that leads us into the very first announcement, which has to do with Woman's Spirit Rising. So, Lori, come on up. And Lakshmi is the music for the retreat this year. So this is a taste.
Naked as the sunrise, bare as a baby.
So, that is the flavor of Woman Spirit Rising. This is my crew, -1, and Woman Spirit is in the house today. So I just wanted to let you all know, this retreat, way back, was actually started by this woman right here. And then most of us know that that Reverend Carol, did many, many years. And of course, you know that this year we sent her away on her voyage. But I want you to know too, that the energy of Woman Spirit Past is being carried through into Woman Spirit Rising this year. The energy is a container of love. It is a sisterhood, it's a sacred circle. And there is an opportunity for people to really connect for women to connect in a very deep way. And it is something that you can't even explain when you get to the land and you're with your sisters and you love each other up throughout a 5-day period of time, and you have beautiful food created for you, and you don't have to lift a finger. And all you have to do is simply show up and be who you are. So I just want to invite everybody to consider that, to visit the website. I've got postcards here. There is, at the back there are flyers and sign-up forms. And I would just love to have some of our sisters, our Golden Gate Center sisters, at our retreat this year. So please come. Please take a look and think about it. And we love you. Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Woman Spirit team. It's nice to have you in the house. Yeah. All right. Next Sunday is our memorial service for our beloved Janet Ryan. It's going to be right here. Following the service, there will be a potluck, so you can bring food. But one of the things about food is that Janet was vegetarian, vegan in part of her life, so we don't want, little sausages and chicken wings for her memorial. Doesn't seem like a good idea. So vegetarian things to bring for everybody to snack on immediately following the service, and then the memorial itself will start at 12:30. If you're coming, you're not going to be able to bring food, but you'd like to contribute something, we do have a box over here on the table for Janet's memorial to help with the extra expenses, renting the room, buying the flowers and that kind of stuff. And so we welcome those donations. But it's next Sunday. So if you know people and have friends that do not know about Janet's passing or don't know about the service, please pass that information on to them. We'd love to have them here with us. A quick start is coming up the week after that with Gail Durkin, one of our licensed practitioners, which is right back there. And she'll be telling you about that a little bit next week before it happens. I am going to be teaching my first class as your senior minister here, Cultivating Freedom and Enticing the Divine, a practical mysticism. If you have taken Foundations or Beyond Limits, then you're eligible to take this class. It does have that as a prerequisite because it is a certificated Science of Mind class. It's going to be on Tuesday nights, starting on September 11th, 9/11, auspicious occasion. It's also my brother's birthday. So come and join us for that. You can register for that at the education table. If you love food as much as I do, then you probably are hoping there will be something over here this morning. Our regular year-long snack team is on vacation right now. They generally sign up for kind of rotating through a 4-month period. And then during the summer, there are about 4 months where it's kind of up to everybody randomly to bring something ready to serve. So we encourage you to do that for another month or so that we can have snacks on Sunday. If you are a Leo, we're going to be coming up on the end of Leo in another week or so. If you're a Leo and you're a member of the church, you get a free spiritual checkup with a practitioner, a free session. And the way that you claim that is to go to the prac table, pick up a form, fill it out. There's a list of all the practitioners, their contact info over there. Take advantage of that. You wouldn't leave your car untuned up. Why should you leave your spirit untuned up? We're giving it to you for free after all. So take advantage of your spiritual checkup with one of the practitioners of your choice and get that info over there. And finally, on the slides, Reverend Carol is going to be leading a group next June, the second half of June, to Greece, and there are flyers on the events table. So if you're interested in that trip, please pick up one of those flyers, and it will give you the information about how to contact to register for it or get more information. Also, Reverend Barbara Leger was here last week, I think it was last week, and she talked about the fundraiser that Temenos is doing coming up in 2 weeks, and she wants to invite people who would like to make a donation of something for the auction, which will be happening at the fundraiser. If you have something to donate to the auction, we just invite you to bring it with you next Sunday, and Reverend Dr. Barbara will be here, and she can take them home with her for the following weekend. So that's an invitation there. And finally, you may notice I'm not over there anymore running the slides on Sunday morning, but Ceci is. And Ceci doesn't work on Sundays, so these are hours that she can't be doing what she should be doing during the week. We love her, but this is not, the best use of her time. Now, I want to tell you something about this. Because I create the PowerPoint, this is not an immense job. What you do is you sit over there and you click it. Basically, that's it. And the setup and takedown gets handled. So I can tell you how to take it down because that might be your job. But it's pretty easy. If you don't want to sit away from your sweetie, we'll bring another chair over there for you. But what I would like to have is 4 people who'd be willing to rotate doing that and learn how to do it. It's pretty easy. So, Ceci, is it okay if they say something to you this morning about that if they're interested, or would you rather they talk to me? Okay. So let Ceci know if you're interested, and we'll contact you with more information. Oh, she's got a lot to do today, so she can't chat too long, but give her your name and contact, and she'll do that. All right? Now you've survived the announcements. This is good. So I invite you to stand and join me for the benediction and the closing song. Please take hands with the people around you. And before we begin the benediction, I would like for you to bring two people into your mind's eye. One is our dear Janet Ryan, and the other is Reverend Carol Huntley. Bring these two people into your mind's eye and into your heart. And in this moment, just acknowledge both the gratitude you have for these dear people, for all that they have done and given for so long, and acknowledge your own maybe feeling of sadness to see them on their way, both on different paths right now. Janet in her next expression of life, and Reverend Carol in her retirement and marriage. We bless them, we love them. We acknowledge our own many-leveled feelings at this transition time. And now, let's say together our benediction to bless this day and claim this for yourself. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and I, people, and I are one eternally. And so it is. Oops, I did that. I am a perfect peace. Wherever I go, peace goes with me. I feel peace inside with every breath. Peace abides. And I know the joy of peace. Sounds wonderful. And I choose to release. Yeah. Every moment love wakes up and peace is